John Von Tobel, Adam Hill in here today. Let's continue our previews of UNLV's opponents for the upcoming season. I think we're allowed to talk about that. Willy Daunic is nice enough to give us some time today, host of the game out there in Nashville. Willie, thank you very much. So let's just start with where Vanderbilt's at this point. Clark Lee enters his third year. He's had a better record each year so far. He had 2 in his first, and then, of course, 5-7 a season ago. And this looks like it has a promising season written all over it with the returning starters and the improvements from year to year. What's just been your outside view of you as you look at this program with what Lee has done up to this point?
I would say hopeful would come to mind. They're not where they have been at their best in the last 10 or 15 years. You would have to look at the best teams that James Franklin had in the 3 seasons he had before he left for Penn State. I think that's really the next step, is to get back to that level where you're trying to break through for bowl games. The guy who succeeded James Franklin, Derek Mason, did not fare as well, but he still did manage to get some big wins, beat Tennessee a few times. Won at Georgia, got to a couple bowl games. And so we'll see if Clark Lee's third team can get back into that area where they can, find a way to get bowl eligible. Never easy for Vanderbilt, but I do think that they are going to be better this year than last year for sure.
What would you say so far with Lee, the way he's coached this and how you've covered this, his identity is as a head coach? What has stuck out to you?
Well, he's homegrown. He's a guy that grew up in Nashville. His family, longtime Vanderbilt supporters, went to high school right down the road. He took an interesting route to get to where he is. He was really a baseball player coming out of high school. That was his best sport, but ended up being a walk-on for Bobby Johnson's Vanderbilt team, played with Jay Cutler back in the day, and then just worked his way up the chain as a football coach at a lot of different places, so he was able to get outside of the Vanderbilt family and find some other coaches that were good influences on him. Ended up being the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame for a really good team a couple years ago, and that's what sort of jump-started him into this program. And, Vanderbilt was really at rock bottom after COVID. They went winless. They had a lot of loss of players, and he was really starting from scratch. So I think he's done an excellent job so far building the foundation.
We talk about teams and how excited fans are. It's usually about the offense, and there's some exciting players on offense for Vanderbilt, but the question has to be on defense. They've been pretty bad, especially against the pass. Is there reason for optimism there?
I think there's reason for some optimism. The biggest problem they had last year, whether offense or defense, was when they played the top-level teams. You can go look at the scores. Georgia, Alabama, they just could not contain them. They were not able to be on the same field. And even in the games that they won, like you pointed out, they gave up some pretty good size chunks, especially in the passing game. So that is where they really have to grow. It's not any 1 or 2 players. They're not coming in with any super 4-star or 5-star recruits that are going to be the saviors. It's got to be a collective thing. And I think that's probably where Clark Lee is at his best. I think he's very good at developing players. So we're going to see what that looks like this year. I would expect it to be better, but the question is how much better.
Also, when we talk about, the reasons for optimism around the program and the fact that they're improving and look like they could improve even more, has that kind of caught on in the fan base? And I asked this because I was out at UNLV practice today, and there was a lot of talk about how many Vanderbilt fans could travel here. I kind of chuckled at first, but I thought, you know what? They probably will travel pretty well. Where is the excitement level from the fan base about this program?
I think they're very optimistic. The biggest thing for Vanderbilt over the last, 20, 30 years for your audience would be when you play in the SEC, if you're not all in, especially being a private school in a league full of huge state schools, and you're swimming with the sharks, right? So if you're not fully committed as a school, you're going to fall way behind. It's hard enough with the academic standards. And so that's been the accusation for a long time, that they have not been all in. But in the last couple of years, they've got a group called Vandy United. It's coming from the top. The chancellor has really put his money where his mouth is. They've poured millions of dollars into the athletic program as a whole. And if you went to Vanderbilt Stadium right now, you could take a look and see they have no end zones on either side. They're doing huge renovations of the stadium. It's just long overdue. Upgrading facilities. So I think that's where most of the optimism is. I don't think anybody's sitting here going, they're going to rip off 6 or 7 straight wins and shock the country or anything like that. It's a slow build, but I do think they're fully behind Clark Lee. And as far as traveling to Vegas, there's no bad time to travel to Vegas. I'm sure there will be some fans, but they're definitely not known for traveling like an LSU or a Tennessee, or if you were playing a school like that in the league, I think you would expect droves of fans. I don't think that's what it's going to look like when Vanderbilt comes to town.
Before we dive too much back into the actual team, we've talked a lot about conference realignment here on the show, obviously, as everybody has around the country. Was there any concern with Vanderbilt that they could be left out at some point? The SEC could kind of force them out maybe and make them move on?
That comes up from time to time. I've been doing sports talk here for a long time. I played basketball and baseball at the school, and so I've always heard that. But Vanderbilt is a charter member of the SEC. There's never been any real discussion of that. But, as you guys see this, times are changing, right? You got to stay with the times. You have to pull your weight. And so it does come up, and there are a lot of schools that do question Vanderbilt's commitment, so they're going to have to find a way. In all of the other sports, they're fine. It's just a matter of, I think, making your mark in football, growing the fan base some, so that never really comes to fruition. I'm not that worried about it, but I'm not going to completely rule out that becomes real down the road some way, because someday there could be 2 super conferences. There could be, I saw an article today about an English Premier League type of setup. Only the elite teams play at the top level. So there's all kinds of possibilities. Now that you've got teams on the West Coast that are playing in the Big Ten, anything is possible.
Just so you know, that was not Vanderbilt slander. My cousin actually pitched there on the 2011 College World Series team, so I'm a Vanderbilt guy.
Who was it?
Taylor Hill.
Oh, Taylor Hill. I know Taylor Hill. He's in the big leagues. That's my man. He's a good man, Taylor. Excellent pitcher, by the way, too.
Very good kid. I was just saying, I'm not taking shots at Vandy.
You just wanted the name drop. That's all it was leading up to.
Look, that was nothing compared to what you get, here. I mean, they are no question going to be always questioned and things like that from the rest of the fan bases around the league. There's some. It's actually ironic when Vanderbilt has become a powerhouse in college baseball, like they have. It's funny when the other schools start to complain about the, quote, advantages that Vanderbilt baseball has. We laugh because of all that stuff, how they've been treated over the years.
All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the on-field product then. Talk to us a little bit about A.J. Swan and what his expectations are for this year. On the surface, over 6 starts, the numbers looked pretty promising.
You guys know, if you get a quarterback that can elevate and mask some issues, that makes a big deal. And that helps a lot at Vanderbilt, especially when they've been good. They've had good quarterback play. You go back to Jay Cutler; they were awful around him, but he gave them chances to win. When Derek Mason took over for James Franklin, they dipped, but they got a guy named Kyle Shermer who's not lighting the world on fire, but he gave them a chance to be competitive. I think A.J. Swan showed a lot as a true freshman last year. For him to come in and do what he did was pretty good. The question was, could they protect him? And the answer was no. After a while, he had, I believe, a concussion. They didn't say it, but he took a pounding. And for a guy that young, that was tough. And so they were alternating him with Mike Wright, who could sort of run his way out of trouble, but he had limitations as a passer. He's transferred, so this is A.J. Swan's team. He's an excellent passer, and I think he's got excellent intangibles, makeup. So I'm really excited to see what he looks like his second year at the helm. Now that really there's nobody competing with them, it's his squad.
And there's a lot of excitement out here in Las Vegas about Barry Odom, this defense, what it could look like. Overall, what kind of offense will this defense be taking on when they take the field out of the Allegiant?
I don't think it's anything fancy. I think with Swan, he's not a guy that's going to run a whole lot, so I think you're going to see, for lack of a better term, more of a conventional pro style. They've got an excellent wide receiver in Will Shepard, who he's a guy that a lot of coverages will roll towards. I think what they put around him on the other side of the field will be important. They've got some very young wide receivers that I think they like long-term, but we'll see how quickly they can make an impact. And they had a 1,000-yard rusher last year who transferred as a grad transfer too. So there's a couple guys that flashed and did very well last year when they got a chance to play, but they've got to sort of take the reins now. They also return, for better or worse, right, the full offensive line. Now, that's always the double-edged sword, right? They return 5 starters, but the 5 starters really could not protect the quarterback very well last year. So they'll count on those guys to improve as a unit.
Willie, I've just got to ask you, I know we're talking about Vandy football here, but you and I, we share a passion, and that's the Immaculate Grid. So what's the best score that you've gotten, and are you still playing daily?
I play daily. There's no question about it. I am addicted to the Immaculate Grid. I make no bones about it. My colleague, I shouldn't say my colleague, a classmate of mine, Tyler Kepner, who is the baseball writer for the New York Times, he's the best I've seen so far. He can get into the single digits multiple times a week. I have been as low as 11. That's my best score on my best day. But, of course, there's always this anxiety because it kills your whole day. I try to do it after my show and not before my show because my morning is shot. If I get a combination, I just can't think of one because I put everything aside in my life until I get it right. And next thing you know, it's about 5 o'clock in the afternoon and I haven't done anything.
I love the commitment because
you got to commit.
My baseball knowledge is basically early 2000s to about 2015, and it's like, oh man, I'm screwed once it's the guy who was a pitcher in like maybe the 1900s that could fit somewhere.
Well, you and I need to combine our brains because I am great from about 1975 to about 1995 when I was collecting the baseball cards when I was a kid. It's easier for me from 2000 to 2015. That's my weakness. So I need to call you. We need to talk.
Man, look at that. I mean, I know you're Vandy, but I'm wearing a Vols shirt today. I'm from Tennessee. I mean, look at this connection.
Wait a minute. Maybe we shouldn't call each other.
First of all, nobody wants to. You're just trying to find friends. Nobody will talk to you, Devon. So leave him alone. That's good.
Good.
Oh, sorry.
Adam's just
was waiting for you to finish your points.
There was, I know there was some laughter about Vandy getting some votes, just like there was UNLV getting some votes in the poll here. How far off is competing for a championship in the SEC for Vandy?
Well, first of all, that was not me that voted for the SEC champion. That was funny. Well, I was at the SEC media days, and all of us were looking around going, okay, come on, who's playing the gag? I do think they probably need to have a little more transparency and take it seriously if they're going to keep doing this. It was pretty ridiculous. It wasn't just Vanderbilt. There were some people that voted for some other random teams that I don't think anybody in their right mind think are going to compete with Georgia and Alabama and teams like that. But, Clark Lee has made no secret. You guys have probably read some articles. He's ambitious. He wants to make this a really special place to come play college football. You've got a great city in Nashville. It's a great school. He has really followed in the footsteps of Tim Corbin. That's a big mentor to him. And so he has set the bar very high. He knows it's going to take a little time to get there, but he has the backing of the school. So he's got dreams that are a lot higher than I think even the Vanderbilt fans' dreams are. So it's a long road, but I think they're a long ways from competing for anything close to a title. But like I said, you get back into that 8 to 9 win range, that's as good as they've been in about 50 years. That's the bar that James Franklin set, 2011 through 2013. So that's the first step, is to get back there.
All right, Willie, before we get you out of here, you also do play-by-play for the Nashville Predators on TV. Point total has been set at 86.5. What are we expecting for the Predators next season?
Well, first of all, congrats to the Golden Knights. I mean, that was a heck of a run. And we enjoy the heck out of coming out to Vegas. I had never been to Vegas before the Golden Knights came into the league. So now I feel like I'm a veteran coming through there. I'm like, okay, where are we going? Here's our favorite restaurant over here and this and that. But I would say, look, they had 92 points last year. So 86.5 I feel like is a little bit low because I don't think that they've taken a big step back. They're committing to younger players. They've changed the formula some. They changed the coach. There's a new GM. But you have, number one of the best defensemen in the league in Roman Josi, and you have one of the top 5 goalies in the league in UC Saros, who's going to give you a chance to win every night. So, to me, I'll be a little disappointed, honestly, if they're not over 86. The question is, can they sneak back into a playoff bubble area, which is where they were last year, despite all kinds of things going wrong. It was kind of a bad year last season. It's the first time they missed the playoffs in 8 years. So the standard for them is to make the playoffs. So I would go slightly over 86, and in that low 90 range. Let's see if 92 or 93 might get you in.
Willy Daunic, ESPN Radio, Nashville 102.5, the game. Willie, appreciate it. Awesome spot, man. Thanks for the time.
All right, anytime, guys. Good to talk to you.
Yep, you got it.